Everyone thinks owning an apartment building is the ultimate financial cheat code. Buy the property, fill it with tenants, collect rent every month, and relax while the money flows in. It sounds almost too perfect. People always need a place to live. Rent comes in like clockwork. And the building? It just sits there. No inventory, no customers to chase, no complex product, just keys, doors, and monthly payments. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Owning an apartment building is not passive income. It's a business, and not just any business. A leveraged, high-stakes, constantly moving machine. And if you don't understand how that machine actually works, it can quietly drain you. So in this video, we're breaking down what you're really buying when you buy an apartment building. But before we get into it, if you enjoy deep financial breakdowns like this, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Chapter 1. The dream versus reality. Let's start with the fantasy. You own 50 units. Each tenant pays rent. Multiply that across the building, and suddenly you're generating serious income. Maybe rents increase over time. Maybe you renovate a few units and charge more. Maybe the neighborhood improves. And while all that happens, your tenants are essentially paying off your mortgage. Sounds like a perfect system, right? But here's what most people don't see. That rent doesn't just flow to you. It flows through a system first, and that system takes its cut. Because an apartment building doesn't just generate income, it also consumes it, constantly. And once you zoom in, you realize something important. This isn't just real estate. It's an operating business wrapped in real estate. Chapter 2. The first real obstacle, financing. Before you even own the building, there's a gate you have to pass through. Financing. Most people don't buy apartment buildings in cash. Even wealthy investors prefer to use debt. So now, your investment starts with a loan. And the question isn't just, is this a good property? The real question is, can this property carry its debt? That one shift changes everything. Because now, your success doesn't just depend on the building. It depends on numbers lining up perfectly. If income drops, or costs rise, the math stops working. And when the math stops working, the pressure begins. Chapter 3. How value really works. Here's something that surprises most new investors. Apartment buildings are not valued based on how nice they look. They're valued based on income. There's a concept called a cap rate, which basically tells you how much return the building generates relative to its price. So if a property earns strong income, it's worth more. If income weakens, value drops. Even small changes in income or interest rates can shift the value by millions. So when you buy an apartment building, you're not just betting on tenants. You're betting on rental demand, financing conditions, market competition, regulations, and future expectations. It's not a static investment. It's a moving target. Chapter 4. The hidden entry costs. Let's talk about the real cost of getting in. You see a building listed for $10 million. That's not what you'll actually pay. There are inspections, legal fees, loan costs, taxes, insurance, and closing expenses. Then there's renovations, roofs, plumbing, elevators, HVAC systems, parking lots, and finally, something most beginners underestimate, cash reserves. Because if you close the deal with no extra money, you're not investing, you're gambling. So that $10 million deal might actually require several million more upfront. And most of that comes from your pocket or your investors. Chapter 5. Where the money really comes from. Now let's talk revenue. Yes, rent is the main source, but it's not the only one. Strong operators build layers of income. Parking fees, laundry machines, pet rent, storage units, late fees, utility reimbursements. Each one adds a little more to the total. But here's the catch. Not all income is equally reliable. Some is stable. Some depends on tenant behavior. Some can disappear overnight. So it's not just about how much money comes in. It's about how dependable that money is. Chapter 6. The cost machine. Now we get to the part that changes everything. Expenses. They don't stop. Ever. Property taxes, insurance, staff salaries, maintenance, utilities, legal costs, cleaning, repairs. Even when everything is going well, money is constantly going out. And then there's the big one. Capital expenses. These are the large, unavoidable costs. Roofs wear out, pipes break, systems fail, and they don't care whether your cash flow is strong or weak. This is where many owners get caught off guard. Because the building might look profitable, right up until everything hits at once. Chapter 7. The illusion of profit. Let's break it down simply. A building might generate millions in revenue. After expenses, it shows solid income. But then debt comes in, and suddenly, that profit shrinks. A lot. Because you don't live on paper profits. You live on what's left after everything is paid. And sometimes, that number is surprisingly small. Chapter 8. The pressure point. Here's where things get dangerous. Everything works. Until something changes. Maybe occupancy drops slightly. Maybe insurance spikes. Maybe taxes increase. Individually, these aren't catastrophic. But together, they squeeze your margins. And when margins disappear, so does your safety. The building can be full, and you can still be struggling financially. That's the trap. Chapter 9. When the system breaks. This is where many investors learn the hard way. They rely on optimistic assumptions. Rents will rise. Costs will stay stable. Financing will remain cheap. But reality doesn't follow projections. When interest rates rise, when costs increase, when growth slows, the entire structure gets stressed. And if the deal was built on thin margins, it can collapse, not because the building failed, but because the structure around it did. Chapter 10. What successful operators do differently. Now let's flip the story. Apartment buildings can work extremely well, but the winners approach them differently. They keep leverage under control, maintain strong reserves, focus on long-term stability, operate efficiently, and avoid unrealistic assumptions. They don't chase hype. They build systems. And over time, that discipline compounds. Chapter 11. What you're actually buying. So what are you really buying? Not just units. Not just rent. You're buying a system. A system that balances income, expenses, debt, regulation, and time. And that system only works when everything stays in alignment. If one piece shifts too far, the entire structure feels it. Chapter 12. Final thought. From the outside, an apartment building looks simple. Inside, it's anything but. It can create wealth, but it can also create pressure. And the difference comes down to understanding what's really going on beneath the surface. Because you didn't just buy a building, you bought a financial engine. And that engine needs to be managed. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives like this. And turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Because the more you understand how money really works, the better decisions you'll make with it. I'll see you in the next video.